Welcome back into the Proving Grounds. We're getting ready for our third game in this best of three between FlyQuest Academy and TSM Academy. TSM, they fired back well in game two. That was the composition that we wanted to see out of them. It looked great in their hands.
It was really a completely different TSM Academy that we saw in game two as opposed to game one. And because of that, Magical, I think this is our first time in over a year not casting a 2-0. If memory serves.
I think so. I think every time you and I have ever casted, well, at least since, the golden days of being in the garage, where we've actually always had 2-0s whenever we do best of threes. So, oopsie,
it's true.
I knocked over a bunch of stuff.
Oh my. Okay, well, that Red Bull really getting to you. I get it. Sometimes it happens. But you know what? That's because you're excited, and it's because I'm excited, Magical. A game three between FlyQuest, who also, in this entire Proving Grounds, has not had a 2-1 victory. They have not even played in a game that went to 3 series.
Exactly.
Three games.
They had their first loss against Evil Geniuses Academy in round 1, 0-2, and ever since then has been 2-0s. And looking at this now, they've got a series on their hand going up against TSM Academy, who looked amazing in that second game. And when you look at these plays, honestly, I gotta applaud Haunter's flanks, and this is what you expect from such a veteran like Haunter, where he knows when he can push himself to the limit or find these beautiful positions to be able to punish FlyQuest.
It's the fact that TSM Academy focused on their warding so early on. They were able to get into the enemy jungle, able to put down those deep wards. Another deep ward play coming in from Haunter, just back to back, coming out of the top laner of TSM Academy. And I think that is what made the difference between game 1 and game 2. And if they continue this in game 3, I see them winning this series, Magical.
Honestly, I do as well. That's what can be expected, but we also want to see FlyQuest Academy themselves be able to turn things around, because in this composition where there was very little that was really different, switch out the Rakan for Gragas from game 1. They had Nara as opposed to what they had in game 1 themselves, where they were trying to see if they can have that Ornn to be able to back up the tank, but I want to see a little bit more from them, right? I want to see them maybe go back to that Ornn. It looked really good in Kumo's hands. Maybe even get Dreams back onto that Gragas to be something that can disrupt the fights a bit more and not really have to worry about everyone getting corralled.
I do agree. I think the main point is the Dreams pick. I feel the Rakan just didn't do exactly what he needed to do. You saw him behind. Too squishy, definitely. Not able to get into fights, not able to stay alive in fights. And the disengage just wasn't there in the same way that his Gragas was in game 1. So stick to the Alistar Rel Gragas, sort of holy trinity. Maybe stay away from the Rakan going forward, even if it means the risk is there that you send the entire zoo at your AD.
So I'm even wondering if maybe the Galio, and we've seen Galio support occasionally. It's something that was far more popular at the beginning of Season 11, but we still see it once in a while be able to pop back up in the bot lane. I feel like Dreams is someone who can easily pilot this champion, and with the composition that they tend to like to go for, which is more of the AoE team fights, things that work well with one another. I feel like that's another one of those things they can easily slot in that works very similarly to that Gragas.
It doesn't quite have the same disengage potential, but it does have global pressure in a way that Gragas doesn't, and also has the ability to tank, which Rakan absolutely was lacking in that last game. But we have seen it played even yesterday, Magical. I believe it was NoOrg that pulled out the Galio support in game 1, I believe. And we're able to really make it work. Maybe that was just because of the differential between Evil Genius's Prodigies and NoOrg, but regardless, it's a good pick, and I think that it is something that really works out for the side of FlyQuest Academy should Dreams choose to pick it. Again, I do see him more as the going off the book a little bit. We saw that last game, and I feel like his picks could be the decider in this next game, just maybe not going, too much against the grain.
And you're right. It was game 1 that they played it. I couldn't remember if it was game 1 or game 2 as well. That Big was playing that one, but it was game 1 that they played that. And so it's still an option. It's still something that they can go back to if they want to. And I want to see, with FlyQuest going back on blue side, what they decide to draft for themselves. If they're going to still try to maybe go for the same bans they did in the first game. Go double up on top lane with that Renekton Gnar and feel more confident grabbing some stuff blind earlier on, especially trying to draft jungle bot side of the map, things that you're not as worried about getting countered.
It definitely seems to come down to who has the Hecarim or whoever's on blue side, because I have noticed this coincidence, Magical, and it has been that blue side with Hecarim has won every game this series, if you look at it.
We've had 2 games. That's a very small
and every single one of those games.
I mean, you're right. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but it's a small sample size, man.
Small sample size or entirely accurate, Magical?
I don't know about that. I'd have to dive. You know what would be funny is if you dive into the stats and it actually ends up being like throughout
Oh, I'm
all
sure
Proving
it's
Grounds.
not
It's like
anywhere near what I'm saying.
it could be. I've seen some weird stats, man, where it's like you get stuff that's blue side, like a blue side Hecarim has like a 80% win rate or something like that. It's something ridiculous, and you're like, oh, okay. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm just ballparking it here. We're going into this game. I kind of am trying to think what we can maybe see out of TSM to be able to counter, because I'm expecting FlyQuest to fall back to how they drafted in game one. Like you said, if the Hecarim's left open, probably going to grab that for themselves immediately. Maybe even Lilia, if TSM Academy themselves decide to not ban that away, instead ban Hecarim to try to change things up. But I feel like Lilia is even better. It's something that can really set up the teams even more, especially from range with the bowling ball dream combination.
There's a lot of options available with the Lilia. Also the Nidalee as sort of that fourth pick in the meta. It's, you know, the awkward stepchild of the family of the current junglers.
I think that's always like drafted into
lot.
Lilias, yeah.
Yeah, usually it's the answer to Lilia. Sometimes it can be picked into Hecarim Mudir. It's not very successful, but it is an option available if the Lilia is banned, which it has been both games, and I feel like that's a trend that's going to continue, if only because it's such a good answer. It's a way to get AP into your comp without forcing the mid lane pick.
Exactly. And I think that depending on how this draft goes, that actually could work out. If Sword maybe wants to go back to that Seraphine, you get something like an AP damage source in from jungle and Bobbip Sant. Well, there you go. The Seraphine makes a little bit more sense that Sword's now playing. Though I will say, I loved the Zoe far more. I would like to see that be what they go for, even if they have that opportunity to maybe grab Seraphine. I think that Zoe, Orianna, those are probably the picks I want to see when we jump into draft.
If TSM avoids Seraphine, I feel like that's going to be more to their advantage. We saw what happened in game one. The draft was all over the place because of it, and it feels like they weren't able to fully balance out the picks. So if they change it up in this draft phase that we're in for game 3, I feel like TSM Academy could have a repeat of last game.
Yeah, but as we jump in, it's going to be the Kaisa band away by FlyQuest Academy once more, going for that first ban. I'm a bit surprised because Tomo loves to play that champion, and sure, you know, picking up first pick means that you give over something like that Hecarim if it's left open. But I feel like that's something that Tomo really does have far more practice than with this Tristana, where we've been seeing the laning phase especially being a bit of a struggle for FlyQuest in general.
Yeah, I haven't been really convinced by Thomas Tristana in the last couple games, just because it seems to be, even in team fights, he's playing it too risky. There's a lot of room for error in the way that he's been playing it. And if they take that away, which, speaking of takeaways, TSM actually take away the Hecarim.
Though, we were just talking about this. And so I expect it to be a Lilia locked in here. Oh, but XI, even with the opportunity, goes to what you said. Goes for Udyr and Babip. If you're not grabbing Lilia right now, actually, you don't even have to. You know that Udyr's there. You can wait for that as your second pick in the second part to grab that and try to see if you can get a really strong bot lane. Grab Tristana, maybe. Tristana Rel.
Tristana Rel would actually be a really spicy pick coming in from TSM. I feel like that's their strongest lane that they can make out of the available picks. And instead, we're going to go for the Olaf lock-in. So one of those soft counters to Udyr, definitely been picked up a lot when Hecarim is not available. It's certainly not the S+ tier of junglers, but still stays relatively high in the A tier and can do a lot of work when put against this matchup.
But now that we have to see what can change. Oh, look at that. We are getting a big change in from Tomo. Not getting Tristana, but they're going for Jinx Gragas. This is a composition they've actually run before. I recall in my notes. Let me go back in time and see. It was against CLG Academy when they were in the losers bracket. They played in game 1 against them, and it did really well, especially into the Rel, to be able to deny Rel any sort of early game priority that they would want to be able to normally have over a Jinx.
Now, the one thing they have to worry about is they drafted Jinx into an Olaf. And if Olaf decides to build damage, it's going to be a really tough time to peel away for the AD, especially with Dreams on Gragas. There's just not a lot you can do into this pick. And if he has a dive buddy of any variety, which Zoe, I would almost say counts, it's going to be very, very tough for FlyQuest Academy to keep their team fight damage alive.
As now we get into the second part of the bans. Azir taken away. Same with that Victor that we've been seeing constantly banned away from triple. But Orianna is also going to join the bench, which means Twisted Fate is left open. But that's not necessarily a solid pick going up against a Zoe. Something that you have to be fearful that can annihilate you before you're even able to get in range for a gold card.
Well, you know what else is up, Magical, and this has been avoided in this entire series, is Syndra. Now, I know that triple isn't necessarily the best Syndra, it's not his most practiced, but it's still a really good matchup into Zoe, and I feel like they'd be at fault for not taking away that pick or not at least considering it among their champ pool.
They definitely can consider that, and I feel like that's probably something that they'll have to ask themselves. I know there's a lot of analysts and colorcasters who aren't very sold on Syndra right now. I'm amongst them, but Cody-san, instead of going for Xayah, I thought Xayah was going to be the answer here. They lock in this Varus, and they are fully committing to a siege composition to try to see if they can replicate what they did in Game 2.
I feel like it's possible with this Varus. I like the team fight ability that comes in, and Akali gets locked in. Very interesting coming out of Triple, trying to really go in for the all-in damage. Not a lot of team fighting. This is going to be more of a skirmish comp from FlyQuest Academy.
A bit of a different answer coming in from them. They sure do have some late game scaling options in that Jinx, even Akali can be a good opportunity to use in later game team fights, but it is much more skirmish heavy. It is far more about splitting apart these fights like TSM Academy were able to do in that second game. But TSM themselves, I'd love to see going back onto that Wukong. Hanser had such a great performance in Game 2 on that, and this is pretty much going to be a slugfest. Both teams want to be able to skirmish, even though TSM Academy have siege options. They have so much skirmishing in that Wukong, in Olaf, Rel to back them up as well.
I do like that on the side of TSM Academy, they have the ability to stop any team fight via the Varus Corrupting Chains or even via the Cyclone if they really want to commit against the fight. But on the side of FlyQuest, they also have a reasonable amount of disengage, especially in the Gragas, and even Kuma with just a little bit of that disengage might be able to make the fight. It's going to be very split up. I think this is going to be much more chaotic than we saw in Game 1 or Game 2.
Oh, for sure. I'm expecting... We've seen both games 1 and 2 have that 18-minute, 20-minute fight right around that time zone where it's been pretty much the deciding factor. This game, we're probably going to see that, but maybe even earlier. We could see a fight around that 15-minute mark where it's the split-up skirmish that is trying to see who's going to be able to get the upper hand, and whoever comes out victorious in that fight might be enough to be able to snowball from there.
Now, what I want to see from this FlyQuest Academy side is, with Triple on this Akali, can he get the roams down? Because that, more than anything, is going to decide how well the blue side does. If Akali stays in lane and just continues to go against Sword over and over, you're not going to get the full experience of the Akali. You need to be able to go in the bot lane, into the top lane, I think is going to be super important early on, and make the difference. Otherwise, I feel like this could fall flat.
But remember one thing. This is the semi-reworked Akali that we're seeing on 11.6. So it's a little bit stronger here in Season 11 that Triple is now piloting the deciding match, trying to see who is going to be able to claim themselves victorious, move on. FlyQuest would love to be able to have a second chance, a rematch against Evil Geniuses Academy, while TSM Academy, they've been battling through all of these tier 1s. They have been proving so many people wrong that they started off weak. They weren't going to be a team that you had to worry about, and here they are, still surviving in the lower bracket.
This is the lower bracket quarterfinals match goal, and this is the final game of this series. It's winner take all. Whoever loses is completely out of the tournament, and whoever wins going on to fight Evil Geniuses Academy tomorrow, or not tomorrow, in a couple days. Yes. And it's going to be quite a match.
That it is, and I'm excited to see how this is going to boil down, since both teams have committed to a lot of skirmishing potential. Even though TSM Academy, mentioned it before, they do have that siege option if they want to use Varus and Zoe for that. But they have to be able to get there, and that's always the problem when you have a siege comp. You have to be able to get a lead, because when you're playing a siege comp from behind, there's very little you can actually do.
You really do need to get those early advantages, and I feel like with Babip on Olaf might be able to facilitate that. But what I really want to see more than anything is our featured matchup, Dreams versus Yurson, in the same back-to-back of supports that we saw in Game 1.
And if we recall last time, it was still first blood picked up by TSM Academy in the bot lane onto Tomo. Dreams, even if his KDA didn't really scream that he was the deciding factor in team fights, he was the deciding factor on that Gragas in the team fights in Game 1. So I want to see how he's going to be able to perform. Because your son, you better bet he is going to look to see if he can play aggressively, be the one to set up these fights perfectly for TSM Academy.
And for the moment, it looks like we're focused on the mid lane, Sword and Triple. Initially, Akali does have a bad matchup just because of the lack of healing. on the 5-point strikes. Otherwise, it's going to eventually come down to who can get the engage first and dodge the bubble. Because if Sword lands the bubble, pretty lost fight for Triple, regardless of if he's cloaked or not. But if Triple can dodge the bubble, then he can just all-in damage on Sword, and Zoe has no recourse. Because as you said in game 1, I believe it was, Zoe is relatively immobile.
Exactly. She's deceptively immobile, right? Because you think that she's going to be able to move around so much. She gets some movement speed when she has her sparkles. You get the jump around with the portal jump, but really you're kind of stationary. And that's why Syndra is one of the champions that does well into her. Because even if Zoe wants to push out and leave the lane, if you're not able to do that, well, Syndra, since you're not really moving around too much, can easily hit you with that Scatter the Weak. But here, to this Akali, I like that you mentioned the Sleepy Trouble bubble, because Sword's probably going to try to hold on to that each time to wait for Triple, because if you use it too soon, Triple's immediately going to pull that trigger and try to kill you.
Yep. But as it stands, going to be a rotation actually coming out of Sword. So the first rotation not going to Akali, but instead to Zoe. And this might work out because the exhaust is down.
This ain't looking so good for Kumo. Trying to be able to get the knockup with the Darkened Blade. Going to be able to hit 2. Gets Teleport. The flash away, but Sleepy Trouble bubble dodged too. So they have to bail. TSM Academy, they keep trying to get this dive onto Kumo, and it keeps not going out so well.
The difference, though, is that the 1-for-1 did not happen. Kumo instead just loses a summoner spell. But Bip also, though, flashed in the middle of that. So not the best trade coming in for TSM Academy. Too hard of a force. And for it, they get punished with a summoner spell trade.
And I think you'll take that if you're Kumo. You know, you lose your flash, sure, but you survived the dive, but Bip no longer having the flash. And it's 2 teleports used to try to see if they can answer mid lane, which means that even with the fact that this lane has been pushed up by Sword, it's also in a pretty precarious spot. It's frozen a little bit, so as Triple pushes this out and tries to see if he can get himself a little bit of a lead, there was that potential that maybe Dreams could have found something, but they back out. They play this passively, not really wanting to hard commit. Oh, it's just going to be a bit of damage.
No, we're not at lethal Zoe quite yet. We have to wait past the 5-minute mark, Magical, and then that's when she starts one-shotting people. I'm pretty sure that's how the math works out. Otherwise, it's going to be once the full item is completed, usually a Ludens or even a Hex belt might make the difference. For now, just going to be a little bit of friendly poke more than anything else.
You know, I don't really see many people going that rocket belt anymore. It was all the craze for a while, but now it's ever for us, you know? That's really what everyone likes to go. That's lock people down forever, and it's an option. It is an option that Sword could go for if you really want to be able to make sure that Triple's not doing anything, but you lose that full burst that you were talking about, right? The magic pen that you want to be able to get as you get your Ludens. So instead of just going to wait it out and try to see what they can really grab for themselves, I'm really still keeping my eyes on Dreams and Yurson. I want to see, especially Yurson. We have not seen him really be able to have those roams that we've seen in the past, in the previous games, where he's been able to impact the side lanes so efficiently. Here, he's tried a couple times, so they just haven't really worked out so well.
What I like is NXI is once again staying towards the bot side. This is something that worked out really well in game 1. Even if there's no kill to get, even if the vision is completely in favor of TSM Academy, there's still something that you can get on the bot side, and that's the dragon. The pressure that comes down from Tomo and Dreams allows it, and really, if you can get a free dragon early on, you take a free dragon early on, Magical.
And that's what they're going to do. They're going to be able to get themselves that pretty easily, as Kumo was attempted again. They were trying to see if they can get Kumo once more, especially since Haunter is level 6. It would have been pretty easy, but Kumo read that one well. Backed off of it immediately, knowing that his jungler is spot side, not really wanting to play up. Now that they know that, hey, I got a big wave that's crashing here, I need to be able to get myself some gold so I can stay even. And there's not really that easy dive that Pavip can commit to since he's only level 5.
And it's really hard to dive in Aatrox generally. Even with the Ragnarok, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to live. You do become a lot squishier, and Kumo, once he picks up a little bit more damage, he's going to be very, very difficult to both kill and get away from.
Especially because Kumo decided to go for that Bramble Vest instead of going for the normal Executioner's Culling, like we see that Haunter's grab for himself. So if they're attacking him, they're not going to be able to heal up underneath that turret like they'd want to. As now that we look back mid lane, more poke, traded back and forth. Still not seeing the most action from the mid lane just yet. We want to see Sword be able to push in that wave once more and then rotate around the map, because that's really what the Zoe is going to be able to do into Akali. Akali does struggle in the early stages of the game to be able to keep up with the Zoe's clear speed.
It really does make a difference when Sword is able to play that well. You saw even in that exchange, Sword was able to stay out of range of the 5-point strike and was able to actually land free poke onto Triple. If he continues that, then Triple is not going to have a great time, but he has the option of roaming. And as you said, Magical, it hasn't happened yet. It needs to happen at some point in the next 5 minutes. Otherwise, I feel like FlyQuest are just completely misusing this pick.
So I know this is a typical thing, seeing the lethality Varus with a Hail of Blades, but I'm not the biggest fan of it personally. I feel like if you're going to go Hail of Blades, Comet is the one I would personally choose. I know if you're going to go Hail of Blades. If you're going to go lethality, you go for the Arcane Comet to be able to back up that poke a little bit more, or even go for Phase Rush to be able to get a little bit extra movement speed, even if you're not going to be able to proc it as easily. But going for the Hail of Blades is really for when people are on top of you, trying to be able to deal with them, especially in the laning phase. And eventually, you're not really about that. You're about being able to snipe someone with a lot of damage, and as you mentioned, throw out the Chain of Corruptions, and job done.
It'll help, but I feel like the Hail of Blades does give Varus something in that the passive gets stacked just a little bit faster. It doesn't do as much damage on the lethality, sure, but it does make a difference towards the later stages of the game when you can just burst someone down in 3 hits and get the easy execution queue onto Tomo, who so far has been playing this pretty well. I feel like it has been passive from both sides. You haven't seen the first blood yet at 8 minutes and 41 seconds into the game, and the chaos that we predicted, Magical. I think we're going to have to hold on for a little bit, but rest assured, folks at home, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. That's like, I didn't think it would really happen until about that 15-minute mark. That's really what I expected to be the nature of the beast for this game, is when they want to fight. Though Haunter is in a bad spot. He has Flash available to be able to get away from that one, so they're going to just let him go, since Tomo showing up into the top lane. Unfortunately, not going to be able to follow it up. Keep in mind, your son, Babip, Sword, all of them, they're in tow, ready to see if they can back up Haunter. Well, NXI, Kumo, Tomo, though. Tomo a little bit far out, though.
Ooh.
Sleep Trouble Bubble, barely not connecting, but it's giving him a bit good zone control with an Magnet Storm as well. The follow-up Cyclone, double kill,
Wombo,
making an early triple out of Haunter. And maybe I was wrong. It wasn't 15 minutes, it was 10 minutes.
And First Blood turns into a triple kill for Haunter, a really nicely executed team fight coming in from TSM Academy. They were able to send Yurson in, get a 4-man Magnet Storm into the 3-man Cyclone. Just beautifully played and very well timed out of the red side.
Oh, barely. Tomo was trying to see if he can get the steal, but look at this play. That bubble actually does a lot more than you think. The zone control it provides with the follow-up Cyclone from Haunter, mwah.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. The one thing I was surprised is the explosive cast never actually came out. I feel like zoning away Haunter might have made the difference in that fight, but it didn't hit where it needed to. And quite honestly, TSM Academy just were fully prepared for it in this Gragas pick, not doing what it's supposed to do.
Unfortunately, not being able to have that same impact that we saw previously, where it was able to split apart the fight. Here, we're seeing that TSM Academy with an early, massive lead, especially since all that gold has been pumped in to this monkey. They really are living by the code of 8 strong together.
They certainly are, and the Divine Sunderer has been completed, so that in conjunction with the Executioner's Calling, gonna be a very lethal combination against Kumo, who I don't think can lane against him anymore, Magical. No. He just has to stand up to setting up the split push more than anything, and if he sees a monkey, he runs.
I'd love to see the gold difference just between those two, because that all the gold is in to Wukong. It is all on a Haunter, getting the triple kill, getting the first turret as well. They have made sure that he is going to be the one. There we go. We have a 2,500. That's the entire gold lead, essentially, for TSM Academy. Pretty much 500 gold is the only difference making between everyone else. It's all spread out between the rest of the team.
And that's just what happens when you have a great team fight. You funnel your gold into one source, but FlyQuest Academy, they're going to have to give up Dragon as well. And quite honestly, they have not been able to find any response on the map. They just lose objective after objective right now, and it's looking like TSM Academy are feeling dominant in this early game. A huge surprise considering game 1.
But this is how TSM Academy tend to play. They are more about fighting around this 15 to 20 minute game. And that is what we were expecting going into it. We're expecting them to be this far faster team trying to win out early over FlyQuest Academy, who wanted to be able to scale up. And still, FlyQuest can, if they want to be able to hold out and try to see if they can get some more gold, especially onto Nikali, especially onto Tomo on this Jinx, that can help them. They have to find a way to be able to stop Haunter from being able to rip apart the backline, especially now. Oh, Tomo having to flash away.
It's not looking good.
Body block coming in. They had a lot of damage. No. Not going to be able to pick up the kill just yet. Barely he survives.
That was the smallest sliver of health I've seen in a long time, Magical. That went down to double digits. That might have even gotten close to single digits, but TSM Academy just barely didn't have it in the tank to get the kill. And FlyQuest Academy, they defend well. They're able to keep Tomo alive, and nothing was really burned for that except for his flash.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's still a flash on Jinx that you've burned. Well,
True.
You can say it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. He's still alive, but now you're a target. You have this big old bullseye put on the back of your head, and they're going to be gunning for Tomo. Try to make sure this Jinx can't get excited, because that is still a big win condition that FlyQuest Academy could always fall back to.
It is going to be easy to get the Jinx as it goes along, especially with Babip, but you also have to worry about how much damage Triple is going to be able to take out. And even though he hasn't participated in anything so far this game, it still feels like there is some chance for an Akali to come in. There is still that window of opportunity for the next few minutes. If they're able to find a team fight on the side of FlyQuest Academy, they will be able to get Triple into the game, and that's going to be the win condition, I think, at this point, Magical.
It's going to have to be, because you always have to worry about the fact that Tomo, even if you can get this Jinx excited, that Hauntzer is so far ahead. That Hauntzer is gunning for the backline, gunning for someone like Triple, someone like Tomo. And if you can take those two out, like you said, those are the ones that you're trying to rely on. Well, now they're no longer alive, and you can't really have them do what they need to, especially with the monkey on top of them.
It's going to be difficult, not impossible. TSM Academy, though, are playing very well around this lead that they've built up. They're going into the jungle, getting the vision they need, and are setting up for the same teleport plays that made them really successful in the last game, Magical. You can see Hauntzer still has the teleport available, and when the dragon spawns in about 2 minutes, you have to feel like if FlyQuest Academy doesn't sweep out their jungle, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Looked bad there for a second for Triple, but now Kumo getting a lot of pressure top lane by himself, being able to take a lot of damage. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get a little bit more gold back for the team, since right now, since things have slowed down a bit, we've been having a bit more of the farm game between the two teams, trying to see if they can buy some of these mythic items before they clash. Well, that means that that massive gold lead that was accrued by TSM Academy, where they had a 3,000 gold lead, has been shrunk, even if it's only slight, down to 2,000 gold lead, is enough to make FlyQuest feel a little bit more confident going into these next skirmishes.
The good news is, and speaking of Triple once again, he has completed a Night Harvester. Will be able to do a lot more damage should he be able to find the targets he needs, but those targets are becoming really, really hard to find just because TSM Academy, once they have a lead, they'll usually clump together. They'll play the 4-1, and that one person that you think is alone, never going to be easy. Hauntzer, especially, is just so tanky right now. I don't think Triple has anyone to go after, so instead, deciding to split push towards the bottom. He has teleport available, but I feel like a teleport play at this stage in the game, not what FlyQuest Academy are looking for.
No, but right now, we are having the power of TSM Academy's composition when they're ahead, where they have the siege, even if it's much earlier than I expected. Zoe, Varus, when they're unlocked from their own lanes, and you can see how fast they can clear out these minion waves, force back Tomo, who's so immobile and really can't venture too far outside of the turret. And TSM Academy themselves are setting up to look for this dive to try to see if they can find anyone. But without that chain of corruptions for Cody-san, does seem like it would be a risky venture.
It'd be risky, but not impossible. You could see that even that amount of risk was too much for TSM Academy, so instead, going for the Rift Herald, definitely the right call. There's still the ability to plant it towards that mid side and eventually get Cody-san rolling. And if they take it fast enough, they might be able to spawn it and then go for the dragon immediately afterwards. You can see it spawning in 20 seconds, going to be the Cloud Soul available on the map for this game. I feel like TSM Academy more primed for it at the moment, but a good skirmish could still set FlyQuest over the edge.
I feel like right now, for the side of FlyQuest, this is actually the right call. They're getting a lot of pressure onto the side lane coming in from a Triple. Probably going to be able to get himself this turret, meaning more gold into the pockets of an Akali. And you can see the CS lead, because Triple's been getting so much alone time in these side lanes, while Sword's been trying to back up Cody-san to be able to harass and try to knock down this tier 1, get themselves a good position to be able to invade the jungle. Is to let this Akali get to a point where she's going to get scared, even though they're trying to get the dive on Akumo. It's a risky venture. I've already mentioned it before. Kumo's still alive. Triple. They have so much damage. And look at that. They got the shutdown they needed to onto Haunter, and they followed it up onto Yurson. The Bip trying to escape with Sword, but he's stunned up by NXI. Followed up for a double kill out of the bear.
It makes so much of a difference, Magical, when you have these item points completed. You can see how much damage Triple was able to put out versus Sword, who doesn't have the Mythic completed yet. He instead went for the Stopwatch, went for the Lost Chapter, and doesn't have it completed yet, Magical. So much damage comes out. TSM Academy, they get greedy, they lose for it.
And they're going to lose this dragon that they were set up to be able to get themselves. They had knocked down that primary turret in mid lane. They wanted to see if they can at least take down Kumo and a TP flank option. But unfortunately, you're trying to dive at Aatrox. Even if you have some grievous wounds, he's going to heal up a damn lot. He is not an easy target to be able to take down immediately. And Haunter, unfortunately, bit off way more than he could chew.
Now, the one thing I have to criticize is FlyQuest Academy were not able to donate the kills over to Triple, who really needs them at this stage in the game. He has 3 assists off of that play, but unfortunately, all of the gold goes to Gragas and NXI. Not what you want. TSM Academy, with their overextension, just barely lose out on that play, and man, do they lose hard.
But the thing is, if I'm FlyQuest, I'll take it. I'll take it. You know what? Doesn't go over to Triple? Sure. It is a bit of a loss. You'd love that to be able to go into the pockets of Akali. But they still get gold back. The gold is now dead even between the two teams when they had that deficit where Haunter was able to pick up all that gold. Now, unfortunately, Dreams, he's going to die here. You sacrifice him. You don't even try to see if you can defend him.
I believe you call that the Academy Special, Magical.
Oh, no. And now Kumo trying to be able to survive. This time around, you don't have the TP to be able to help you out. And he was way too far, too. So now, like you said, Academy Special... 2 for there. They got a 2 for 1, and they're going to be able to get themselves a turret off of TSM, which gives them that gold lead right back.
But you can see in the top lane, Triple just playing to the FlyQuest Academy playbook, going for the split push while all of this is happening. Without the teleport, he's not going to be able to make a counter play. TSM Academy, they capitalize well. They get the turrets they want. They get kills added to their score, and with that, they get a small gold lead. So still keeping about 900 ahead.
Right, and that's the thing. You're getting the gold lead back for TSM Academy where they had pretty much burned a lot of that lead, giving it over to FlyQuest off of that last play. Well, this time, you know what? They're a little bit better. They're able to get themselves the turret as well. They get 2 kills, 1 more into Haunter's pocket. So when we take a look at this play, Dreams, it was just a good catch and good read coming in from TSM Academy. Here, Kumo needs a bail. He's sticking around that turret. You see Dreams dying, you get out of there.
There was also a teleport that came in from the side of TSM Academy. I believe that was Haunter that came in. And with that, Kumo, he just bit off a lot more than he could chew. The play was already happening in the jungle. He had nowhere to run. He tries to stay by the turret. And quite honestly, I don't think there was a right answer in that situation.
Like I said, you let Dreams die and you bail. That's the only thing you really can do. The turret's dead. Don't even try to defend it. You know that you're not going to be able to. It's the side of TSM Academy, even if they've botched one of their dives, they still have a really good dive composition. A lot of good range poke coming in from both Sword and Cody-san. Haunter and Babip are going to be able to dive and survive for a really long time. Gore Drinker has been completed for Babip, having Sterk's Gauge as well for Haunter. They are going to be able to absorb so much of the damage coming in from these turrets. And now,
Chains of Corruption.
And it actually is the Everfrost coming in from Sword. Yep. I was right. Wow.
Yeah, it's coming in. It's a very strong pick, as you said, the ability to lock down from range. Very, very efficient against this team that wants to just run around and keep Tomo safe. Well, if he gets locked down, he's not going to be safe for very long. Haunter and Kumo just going to be playing footsie in the top lane. Not going to be much happening as of yet because of the waves. But in the mid side, looks like TSM Academy have picked up that second-tier turret and will be pushing in towards the jungle.
More gold being funneled into the pockets of TSM Academy. Fortunately, this time it's not into Haunter, but again, getting any sort of advantage is what you need to be able to, especially with these skirmish-heavy compositions that both sides have. Now they're posturing around more vision control, especially now that you can see where the turrets, similar to last time, where FlyQuest Academy were able to get the side lane turrets, right? They were able to push so far down, but they weren't able to get that tier 1 mid lane. It took them so long before they knocked down that structure that it allowed TSM to completely reign free into the jungle.
It's been a very difficult road for FlyQuest Academy to get position into their own jungle, but kudos to TSM Academy for putting down that pressure and also putting down the 3 control wards necessary to control that top side. Definitely going to have all the sight that they need, as the Baron is going to be an objective soon. But as I say that, the Dragon is spawning up in about 50 seconds, and I feel like both teams are angling towards that side of the map, more so because this is Soul Point. If FlyQuest Academy can get it, and TSM Academy, they just want more dragons. Why not?
But it's the clown soul, man. It's not as good. That's why you can even see that FlyQuest don't really care. They're like, okay, sure, tie us up on dragons, whatever. We're trying to posture around this Baron, trying to see if we can take a little bit of control, since they still are at 1,000 gold deficit between them and TSM. They want to be able to make sure that they can maintain some level of control on one half of the map. They're not going to be able to get both, not when you're out of deficit. So at least getting it around the Baron is going to make sure that TSM can't just burn that when their backs are turned.
So TSM Academy in response are just sticking towards the bot side, saying you can have all our vision, you can have all the control of your own jungle that you want, but we're taking this dragon, and we might even get a pick here.
And here we go, Dreams. This is why we like the Gragas pick, right? Look at how little damage there was from the Battlestar that time around. Much better, much better.
Definitely a smarter pick as NXI dodging out, and TSM Academy just continues to pressure on the south side of the jungle. Dragon has spawned in, but so far no attempt has been made yet. It's just about posturing and seeing if the catch out happens.
Hauntzer wants to be able to find yet another flank too. He's been able to make these work so well on Wukong. You think game 2, how immaculate so many of those were that was able to split apart FlyQuest. This time, it is going to be more tricky because FlyQuest can play that skirmish style and split up fight too. So you need to make sure you're patient, waiting it out, finding Tomo, finding Triple before you actually want to go for the full-on engage.
And so far, Cody's son goes for the Chains of Corruption. A lot of damage.
Oh. And here's the TP. Well, that's an interesting TP coming in from Triple. He's just trying to see if he can get the flank. He's looking for Cody's-san to be able to get a light. He's going to be able to advance around, try to get away. They have your son with an Magnet Storm, locking down Triple, but Triple back into the back line, wanting to be able to take down Cody's-san, who's still barely alive. Now instead turning the attention back on to Sword and your son.
Forcing flashes.
Look at Hauntzer. He got nothing. He's still alive, but the shield is only going to be able to delay the inevitable for so long as Tomo finally falls. They finally got the kill. They finally turned it around for Triple as well with the flash in from Kumo. Trying to chase down Cody's-san. Trying to see if he can make sure it's a double kill for FlyQuest Academy. Control around the Dragon Pit goes their way.
If you're a fan of FlyQuest Academy or TSM Academy, that could not have been easy on your heart. A back and forth skirmish with Triple and Kumo just dodging in and out. Hauntzer gets the nice flank, but unfortunately doesn't have the same damage that he did in game 2, so it doesn't make the huge teamfight victory, and FlyQuest Academy walk out with more kills and the dragon at the end of all is said and done.
And that's the thing, right? Not only did they win the fight, but they got the objective they came for. They can now see if they can back off, use that gold they've just accrued for themselves, transition that all around the Baron Pit. If they want, of course, they can get themselves that soul later on. It's only the Cloud Soul, not really that important. The Triple here is the hero, trying to make sure they can take Cody-san out of the equation.
Also, huge shout out to Yurson, able to get the nice crash down onto Triple to make sure he doesn't go back in with E2. Very, very well done to keep his carries alive. Unfortunately, Hauntzer just isn't able to follow up with the damage, and the rest of the team is routed. So TSM Academy, they think they have positioning, but unfortunately, FlyQuest Academy just got the better of them in that fight.
That they did. It was still messy.
Very
by all
close.
means. It was chaotic all across the board. It almost seemed like Hauntzer was going to be able to 1v5 with that huge shield he got from the Styric Cage, but unfortunately, that's not enough. Even without Tomo, you had highlighted that Triple is so impactful and so important, but we also failed to realize the power that Kumo can have in these fights. Now that he's got that Gore Drinker completed, even with the Bramble Vest from before, it is going to be so tricky to not only kill Kumo, but to survive the damage he's able to throw back at you.
And as the game moves on, that gets even harder because Cody-san on this lethality build, yes, it's going to do a lot in the mid game, but it doesn't scale well, Magical. If he doesn't get a kill, then that Duskblade will never proc. He's never going to be safe against the likes of Kumo, NXI, and Triple, who are just going to be on him the entire game. So Cody-san really playing it risky, and unfortunately, put himself on a timer with this build.
Now, with both teams, we're dead even. Back to being even in gold. There's going to be the control that FlyQuest have now gotten themselves despite that. With the dragons they have in their pockets, the fact that they've been able to push some of the vision back towards TSM zone jungle, it means that they are now the ones that can try to see if they can be proactive, try to see if they can catch out TSM Academy instead of having to fear that their own jungle is a nightmare situation.
It's looking pretty dangerous, but FlyQuest Academy are getting routed themselves, and this is a dangerous place to be if you're on the blue side. You don't want to be in this little chokehold in the mid lane. You want to make sure you have room to roam around and you have the ability to flank, because you can see Yurson almost looking for it.
This is going to be the next. This fight is going to be what decides it. You can see that they got Hauntzer
Triple!
with Triple on the other side, but look at the shields for Hauntzer. He's still alive, trying to get the damage back on
Tomo, though.
He finally died. Tomo's able to take him out. As
Triple!
He's with Stead on the other side. Yurson trying to see if he can help, but he's only helping out Sword. He's leaving Bob Bip to dry. It's a shutdown pickup, sure, but there's 4 members from FlyQuest on top of the Baron.
And that's a jungler that stays alive. NXI was able to keep his health bar high. Yurson and Sword, the only defending members. I feel like FlyQuest Academy are going to be able to get this, even if the poke goes down.
Sword, I think, wants to see if he can find the snipe onto Tomo. They don't want to give up that easily, but FlyQuest Academy, yet again, find a perfect fight that works out well. They only trade the life of one, and they get themselves the Baron.
And the big difference, Magical, between the last fight around the dragon and this fight around the mid lane is that there was no peel. Yurson could not take triple away from the carries. And you saw the kill that came out. You saw the summoner spells that came out. And a beautiful stopwatch, and I believe Zhonya's, coming from triple meant there was no way for TSM Academy to defend against the Akali. They get the kill in the end. But what does that really matter when you've lost your carries and you lose 3 kills to one person diving in?
Now it's a 2,500 gold lead for FlyQuest Academy, but we got to take a look at this fight, and it's, again, split up. Hauntzer tries his damnedest to be able to keep so many members at bay, but they have to be so worried about triple.
Yeah, 4 members are on triple at this point in the fight. A very nice Zhonya's means there's nothing they can do against him. He's just zoning them out, and the awkward positioning between Hauntzer and the rest of TSM Academy means there's no capitalization onto Tomo, the other damage threat. He gets free damage to the whole fight. Yes, it's on only 2 people, but that doesn't matter. He stays alive, full health. I think we take that team fight anytime we can if we're FlyQuest Academy.
Exactly. And now with them having this lead, they're the ones that are driving this game, trying to see if they can get more gold into their pockets, making sure each structure is going to be taken down cleanly and patiently with that soul on the line as well. FlyQuest are in the perfect position to try to end this game.
And you can see they're trying to push up towards that jungle, much like TSM did in Game 2. It might not be as successful. You can see the vision going down already for TSM Academy. They have the control wards. They're trying to keep pressure, but Hauntzer might be in a little over his head.
But the thing is, keep in mind that Hauntzer is more than comfortable being in a 1v2. He's been fighting 1v4 this entire time. Instead, they turn it back around onto Kumo.
Triple!
He has a shield, but it's not enough. Triple hasn't been able to get the kills just yet. Kumo
Tomo!
nice to the shutdown coming in from Hauntzer, jumping into the backline onto Tomo, trying to see if they can keep up the fight. They've got the shutdown onto Tomo. NXI running for the hills to be able to get that, but TSM Academy, they turn it back around. Triple Dreams, they're caught in a rock and a hard flush trying to escape from the fight. Cody-san's barely alive, and Triple, he's trying his best, but he can't. He's taken down.
What a peel coming out of Yurson, able to stop Triple from getting the damage he needs onto the AD, but TSM Academy, they find the weakness, they find the perfect timing to go in onto NXI and Kumo. Hauntzer, it looked scary at first, but there was no damage around him. As you said, he's been 1v2 this entire game, Magical. And because he was able to stay alive so long, the rest of the team collapses faster than FlyQuest Academy could get over there.
Incredible stuff from TSM Academy. Backs up against the wall, and they still find a fight that works out this time around. They were able to get the split up fight. FlyQuest Academy didn't have the proper positioning to be able to really focus down Hauntzer quick enough. And if you can't take out this Wukong fast enough, you can see how quickly Hauntzer turns these fights like a dime.
And one of the things is Triple was unable to get any of the kills because the exhaust coming out of Sword very well placed and able to stall out the fight long enough for the rest of TSM Academy to get the picks they needed. And even though the carries weren't there, there's still a lot of damage coming in from this draft. TSM Academy plays it well. They're able to divert resources where they need to be, and really there was not a lot FlyQuest could do, as you could say.
Look at the CP from Hauntzer. He is looking for the flank. Tomo's really far out. Dreams is caught out by the corrupting chains, and the flash in Hauntzer on top of
so
Tomo,
much
who
damage.
flashed away as well. They're going to be able to chase it down with the double cycle coming in to get a lot of damage
Teleport.
on Dreams and burn him down quickly. Sleepy Trouble Bubble. They want to be able to put him to sleep. They've got the kill onto the carries. Only Triple now in the middle of all 5 trying to be able to survive, but it's a double kill for Cody's on TSM Academy. They've got another fight, and with the minions already here, only one surviving at NXI, they're looking for the game.
It's looking like the end, Magical. They pushed on. They've got the picks they need. They're getting the inhibitor. They have a wave. I think TSM Academy came from behind to win this one back.
One more fight. 2v5. Kumo and XI against the world. They've got a lot of damage, but they only get a trade of 1-for-1. Kumo trying to see if he can be the world ender and end the world, but his world is ended. TSM Academy, they found the victory. What a fight. What a series. 2-1. TSM Academy will march on forward, and they will face off against Evil Geniuses Academy.
Magical, I don't think you could ever call that game clean by any stretch of imagination. I don't think you could call that series clean by any stretch of imagination. But TSM Academy, when they draft to their strengths, man, oh man, are they a scary force to be reckoned with. They were able to take games 2 and 3. They looked pretty darn good in 2. And even though there were some falters in 3, I feel like TSM Academy still showed a lot of strength. They still found the weakness that they needed, and they found their opportunity and took it.
What a game, though. Honestly, that game was back and forth so many times. I did not think that. Fine. At one moment, I'm like, oh, TSM Academy have it. Then the next moment, I'm like, oh, FlyQuest Academy have it. Back and forth. Like you said, not necessarily clean, but that was exciting to watch.
It sure was. I mean, it's just the fact that both of them drafted skirmish comps. It came down to who can find the early pick. And Hanser, once again, just proving himself to be the toppest of top tiers in that lane when it comes to fighting against an enemy team. The 1v5 god himself coming out, even though it didn't win every single time, he went for it every single time.
And it's just his flanks that were so good in some of these fights. And honestly, it really was the deciding factor. You can even see in a lot of these team fights that didn't go their way, 1v5. He's in the middle of everyone, and still it takes so much to actually kill him.
It's like the opposite of what you would think is the logical case, where if it doesn't work, 1v5, don't try it again. Like, it's not going to work again, but he just keeps going over and over. 1v5, 1v4. It doesn't work out in this situation, but that's just because Triple had 4 other members of TSM Academy completely routed and managed to get the kill. As the game went on, though, Cody Sun was able to survive, and Triple was not able to get the picks he needed, and that was the deciding factor between FlyQuest Academy and TSM Academy. You could see him on the top side. He just can't get in, and it's entirely before TSM Academy is able to rout his team.
Exactly, and Hanser is doing so much to make sure that if Triple can't do anything, well, then you're relying on Tomo, right? And now Tomo can't do anything because Hanser's on top of him. There's just so much power taken away from FlyQuest Academy based off Hanser's performance here.
It's just so powerful, this top laner that's able to get pressure in the early game, even receive the pressure in the early game, getting a lot of ganks. And even if he fails, he tries and tries again. That's the sort of mentality you see out of very experienced players, just able to know what the game plan is, even if it doesn't succeed the first time.
And here, it was just the final fight that broke the camel's back for FlyQuest Academy. Unfortunate for them, it was such a well-fought battle there in Game 3. It was back and forth between the two squads, but only one can move forward. And TSM Academy are the team that were able to secure that. It was awesome to be able to see them come back in that game, but I do hear that we're going to have Sword for our Horizon player interview. So why don't we go and hear from you, Sword? Congratulations on your victory in that series. That was a close one, so give me your thoughts on that final game.
Thank you. And I'm just like really happy and really relieved that we win the game 3 because it was like really close. We were winning early. We got like 3 kills, but we kind of threw it away a little bit, and I kind of got really behind. But just felt really great to win the game 3 because a lot of best of 3 series that we play, we just lose the game 3. And yeah,
but it looked good. I mean, you won that game 3, you were able to pull it out. But I want to ask about that game 1, the Seraphine pick. So it was something that kind of worked in concept, but what do you think is Seraphine something that TSM is going to play going forward, or is that maybe something that you now keep in the pocket and maybe wait to bring it out?
I have a lot of champions to draft, but we thought about many different draft scenarios, and we just thought Seraphine was a good fit for the team comp. I definitely need more practice on the champion, so we'll see what happens.
But I will say, I personally loved your Zoe. Your Zoe was, especially game 2, you looked really awesome in that one, even if it wasn't necessarily like the highest KDA. Your Sleepy Trouble Bubbles were immaculate. The paddle stars you had, and I gotta say, that's the pick I really want to see. I know it's one of your special picks, so it's like, have you been playing that champion pretty much since she's come out and spamming her a bunch?
Yeah, Zoe is basically my favorite champion, and I just feel really comfortable no matter what matchup I play. So I just find it whenever. So yeah, it's pretty good.
So looking forward now, you have Evil Geniuses Academy that you'll be playing against. You've played against them before. Are there any tricks that you're going to pull out? Are you excited about the matchup? What do you think it's going to be like fighting against them in the lower bracket semifinals?
I think the series is going to be pretty fun for tomorrow against EG because they're like they play for kills a lot. So it's gonna be some Fiesta games. Excited for it.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like that definitely can look maybe a little familiar to that third game that we saw here, but looking at the series, I think that you guys, especially if you can play like you did in games 2, you looked really solid in that one. Game 3 was definitely up in there, but I want to ask your opinion on how Hanser was able to play onto this Wukong, and that seems to be something you guys rely on, is his ability to flank. Is that right?
Oh yeah, Hanser, we just know he's a great player. He's a great leader, so we just play around him, and yeah, it usually works. So that's what we do.
So I got a question for you. Speaking of Hanser, now we did see in an interview with Kangas earlier this week that Hanser was able to show a pretty impressive flex. Sword, when are we going to see your flex?
TSM got the gymming the facility, so me and your son have been gymming almost every day. So maybe in like a 3 months or maybe like 3 years, I'll show you guys.
Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in you. I think you can get it. I think you can get it in 3 months. I believe in you. Thank you, Sword, for joining us here for the interview. You were awesome. Congratulations on the victory, and we wish you luck tomorrow against Evil Geniuses Academy.
Thank you.
But yeah, with that, TSM Academy going to move forward in that lower bracket. It's going to face off against Evil Geniuses Academy. And as Sword kind of alluded to, they like to play a lot of that skirmish style. We saw that up against Cloud9 Academy in that second game where it was all over the place.
I mean, chaos is sort of the name of the game when you're casting any academy or amateur game, and quite honestly, I expect to see way more, but honestly, we've got more gameplay to cover, Magical. It's going to be 100 Thieves Academy versus Golden Guardians Academy in this bracket. You can see it right there coming up soon, and I think this is going to be even more chaotic than what we just saw.
Well, we'll have to see when we get into that series and see who's going to win to be able to face off against another Evil Geniuses, but Evil Geniuses Prodigies in the semifinals for the losers bracket. But I'm going to say, after that first series, I'm excited for the next one. I was expecting the next one to be a really close one. This first one ended up being super close. I'm hoping we have that same thing in our second series, but we're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll be getting ready for that second series of 100 Thieves Academy against Golden Guardians Academy. Stick around.